Hello, this is KYC News. We provide you with the most up-to-date and reliable information for the day. First and foremost, we want to achieve perfect health with a sincere desire. Finland removes all COVID-19 travel restrictions on citizens of third countries. ISIS claims responsibility for a bus attack that killed 13 people in Raqqa, Syria. Finland removes all COVID-19 travel restrictions on citizens of third countries. After the government announced that it would finally abolish the requirement, third country nationals planning to enter Finland will no longer be required to present valid proof that they have fully completed the coronavirus immunization process, a negative result of a COVID-19 test, or undergo a testing process upon their arrival in the northern European country. The decision, which will make travel easier for passengers outside the European Union and the Schengen zone, has been confirmed by the Finnish government in a statement, with the emphasis that the new measures will take effect on June 30th, according to Schengen Visa Info.com. The new laws were enacted after Finland's health authorities determined that the country's epidemiological situation allows for such a decision, while also emphasizing that there is no longer any health need to maintain limitations on the country's exterior borders. The relaxation of such limitations designed to prevent the spread of the coronavirus and its new forms, according to Finnish authorities, will result in an increase in the number of passengers arriving from countries outside the EU and Schengen zone. It is predicted that the elimination of limitations will stimulate traffic from third nations. Traffic on the eastern border, for example, may grow. The desire of Russians to travel and the number of valid visas are two factors that influence traffic volumes. Visas to Finland are issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, according to a statement released by Finland's government. In January of this year, the Finnish government declared that all internal border controls imposed as a result of COVID-19 will be abolished for all arrivals from European Union member states. Finland's Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement confirming the decision, which took effect on January 31st. The same ministry stated at the time that the controls established on the country's exterior borders for arrivals from foreign nations would stay in force. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, a total of 1,125,342 persons have tested positive for the coronavirus in Finland since the outbreak began, with 4,771 people losing their lives as a result of the virus. According to WHO statistics, 11,833,690 vaccination doses have been administered in Finland as of June 5. Despite these data, Finnish authorities believe that the epidemiological situation allows for the lifting of restrictions in order to simplify travel and aid the country's recovery from the virus's effects. ISIS claims responsibility for a bus attack that killed 13 people in Raqqa, Syria. Damascus. 11 government soldiers and 2 civilians were killed in a bus attack in northern Syria on Monday, according to the Defense Ministry, with the ISIS terrorist group subsequently claiming responsibility. The incident occurred in the Jabal al-Bishri region of Raqqa province, according to Syria's state news agency Sana. According to a statement from the Defense Ministry, 11 soldiers and 2 civilians were murdered in a terrorist attack on a civilian bus. According to the report, 3 soldiers were injured. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack on a Telegram channel belonging to one of its members. The ambush was carried out by ISIS sleeper cells, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, who carry out hit-and-run strikes in the country's desert areas. Syria's 11-year conflict has divided the country into multiple zones of authority, with government forces and allied fighters holding the majority of the country. Turkish-backed rebels and more extreme organizations control a slice of land in the northwest, while Kurdish-led troops with U.S. support control the northeast. One of the bloodiest bus ambushes occurred in Syria's eastern Deir al-Zor region in December 2020, when 28 passengers were killed in an attack on a prominent route. After convicts gained control of a jail housing ISIS suspects in January of this year, there was a break-in attempt. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, assisted by U.S. soldiers, foiled their attempts. Last week, the U.S.-led coalition fighting ISIS in Syria said that a senior ISIS leader had been apprehended during an early morning raid. The EU must not revert to coal-fired power, EU Commission. To replace Russian gas, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has stated that the EU must not back to using coal and ignore its climate change goals. We have to make sure that we use this crisis to move forward, not to go backwards on polluting fossil fuels, von der Leyen said in an interview with the Financial Times on Monday. It's a narrow line, and we haven't decided whether we'll take the correct turn. Massive investment in renewables must continue, according to von der Leyen. She went on to say that Brussels has taken emergency measures in response to the threat of reduced Russian gas supply, such as energy conservation and selecting which businesses receive gas. The Commission announced in March that it will phase out Russian gas by 2030. The decision came as part of a set of sanctions imposed in response to Moscow's military assault in Ukraine, which began in late February. EU members like Germany, on the other hand, have consistently cautioned that a blanket ban on Russian energy would be disastrous for their economies. On Sunday, German Economy Minister Robert Habeck said that coal-fired power plants should be utilized to generate energy instead of gas, and that additional gas should be put into storage facilities. Otherwise, winter will be very tight, he said. It's a pity, but lowering gas usage is simply required in this situation. Habeck's remarks appear to be a significant deviation from the government's January climate change strategy, which calls for Germany's renewable energy share to reach 80% by 2030. His comments come after Gazprom, the Russian gas corporation, stated last week that it will reduce the flow via the Nord Stream 1 pipeline due to technical issues. The Netherlands said on Monday that it would similarly relax coal-burning restrictions. Austria implemented a similar strategy. After the United States withdrew, the Taliban released 5 British civilians who had been caught up in a crackdown. On Monday, British authorities revealed that the Taliban had released 5 British civilians held in custody in Afghanistan. Following their release, the UK government issued a message of sorrow to the 5 men, who were caught up in a crackdown on foreigners and Afghan civil society activists by the Taliban when they seized control in August, according to the New York Times. This differs from a Taliban spokesman's claim that the 5 British men broke the country's rules and the Afghan people's traditions. After President Joe Biden authorized a full-scale withdrawal of U.S. forces from the Near East country last summer, the Taliban took control of Afghanistan. The British Foreign, Commonwealth, and Development Office, (FCTO), stated the detained British males, who had no connection to the British government or military, were in Afghanistan against travel advice at the same time. The FCTO issued a statement saying, "This was a mistake. We apologize on behalf of the British nationals' families for any violations of Afghan culture, customs, or laws, and assure them of future good behavior. This incident has been regretted by the United Kingdom government." According to a Taliban statement, the 5 Britons were released after many discussions between British and Taliban officials. In a statement, Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid said, "They committed to abide by the laws of Afghanistan, the people's traditions and culture, and not to violate them again." Afghanistan is now secure for all, Mujahid continued. Anyone may come to Afghanistan with confidence for charity or tourism. According to the New York Times, the family of former journalist and businessman Peter Juvenal, who was among the 5 people released from detention, made a separate statement on Monday expressing appreciation for his release. "We are grateful to the thousands of people who have contributed to his release effort," the family said in a statement. "We are grateful to the personnel at the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office in the United Kingdom for their persistent efforts to achieve his release." As the value of the yen falls, Japan's central bank remains steadfast. With the rising cost of basics and expensive indulgences, the decade of currency stability has come to an end. The Bank of Japan, on the other hand, appears to be adamant about maintaining its weak yen policy. Fumio Takanaka has been looking forward to a family vacation to a distant beach for more than 2 years. She began making arrangements for a week in Hawaii as the coronavirus pandemic faded and resort locations throughout the Pacific reopened, only to be shocked by the rates she was told. Rising fuel costs have increased the cost of Japanese airline flights, while travel companies have raised their prices in an attempt to recoup some of the revenue lost during the industry's forced shutdowns. The fast declining value of the yen, however, had the greatest influence on the Takanaka family's vacation plans. The value of Japan's currency, the yen, has dropped, and $1 now costs slightly less than 135 yen, a low not seen since 1998. This is also a significant decrease from the mid-March exchange rate of roughly 110 to 120 yen to the dollar. When I calculated the yen pricing for hotels, a day trip to the north coast to view the turtles, and a meal out in Honolulu, I was astounded. Even airport transfers now appear to be prohibitively pricey, Takanaka told DW about it. We visited Hawaii several times previously, but I don't recall the prices being this outrageous. Prices in the United States are increasing. The cost of food, fuel, and everything else has been rising in Japan as well, Takanaka added, but spending dollars appears to be beyond our budget at the time. I believe we will return to Okinawa this year instead. The fast depreciation of the yen has alarmed Japanese consumers and businesses, particularly those who are finding imports to be excessively expensive. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Bank of Japan Governor Haruhiko Kuroda met in Tokyo on Monday, describing the currency's depreciation as a source of concern. Nonetheless, the Bank of Japan, under Kuroda's leadership, has reiterated its ultra-low rate policy, in contrast to the US and European central banks, which have been raising interest rates to combat inflation. As a result, according to analysts, investors have been fast to liquidate their Japanese currency holdings. I completely expect the yen to move to 140 to the dollar, said Martin Schultz, Fujitsu's Global Market Intelligence Unit's senior policy economist. A weak yen policy and money printing have been essential components of Kurodanomics, with that easy monetary policy perceived as having a good influence on Japanese exporters' earnings, as well as bringing in more in yen terms when gains earned abroad are repatriated, he said. The key concerns are inflation and deflation. Kuroda and the central bank have maintained this strategy for more than a decade, with the primary goal of preventing inflation and deflation, according to Schultz. Despite the dramatic worldwide upheavals created by the epidemic, the instability that rocked global supply lines, the attendant economic slowdown, and now the situation in Ukraine, Japan has refused to modify its objectives. These effects have resulted in price increases in Japan, particularly for imports such as fuel and consumables like corn, cooking oils, and wheat. According to figures from retail analysis firm True Data Incorporated, the price of cooking oil has risen from 213 yen, €1.49, per liter in May last year to an average of 323 yen, €2.27, today, while the price of mayonnaise has risen nearly 30%. 600 grams of dry pasta costs 292 yen, €2.05, up from 256 yen, €1.80, and 1 kilogram of wheat has risen 9% to 254 yen, €1.78. Japanese enterprises are concerned about currency fluctuations, with 45 of the country's top 100 companies responding to an Asahi Shimbun poll saying they believe the weak yen is harming the country's economy, and another 38 saying the effect is somewhat unfavorable. The most important concerns for the majority are rising raw material costs. Japan lacks the natural resources essential to feed domestic industry, and transportation costs. The Bank of Japan has been pushing the narrative that a weak yen is good for Japan, Schultz said. However, industry and ordinary people who perceive increased prices do not agree. On the horizon, there is reason to be optimistic. While Schultz believes the yen will continue to fall in the coming weeks and months, he also believes the Japanese economy has been harmed by a unique set of conditions that will, sooner or later, fade. He noted that supply chain disruptions will eventually unravel, and that inbound tourism, which accounts for 1% of Japan's GDP, should return in the near future. Similarly, he believes that if the U.S. economy enters recession, which is becoming increasingly inevitable, the yen will become a more appealing safe haven currency for investors, and that many of the investments that have been lost in the last year or so will be recovered. At the very least, it is the Japanese government's desire, he said. They anticipate that things will improve throughout the summer, which will aid in the stabilization of the exchange rate.